Merry Catsmas, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the birthday, 3-year anniversary of the birth of Dr. Richard Katz. And here to explain to me, in case you're not familiar with who he is and how that's all relevant to urban apologetics, because it is, I have none other than the one and only Faithful to God. How you doing tonight, Faithful to God? Welcome to Street Apologists Live, man. Glad to have you on and celebrate this with me, no doubt. How you doing? Let me make sure that you can hear me. You should be able to hear me. Can you hear me? And can you see me? And all that kind of stuff.
All right, there we go.
All right, there we go. All right. So, you've been
here for another Catsmas, man.
Yeah, welcome to the birthday of the one and only Dr. Richard Katz. Now, how long have you been doing, would you say, Faithful, urban apologetics as a ministry? How long has that been?
I want to say since 2015, roughly around 2015.
Since 2015.
Yep.
And you've dealt with different groups in that time. In that time, have you ever seen anything like the invention of a scholar to try to prove a point, like with this Katz fiasco?
Well, no. I think this was a very unique situation. And shout out to William Brown, Boom Church Atlanta, because he's the creator of Richard Katz. And I think...
Yeah, we want to make sure we definitely give recognition to the parents. And certainly William Brown is the father. We want to just, give him a shout out. And we also know that the reason he's named Richard Katz, I don't know if you knew this, Faithful, is because he's Richard's son as well. Did you know that?
Oh, I caught that one.
Yeah, he's Richard's son.
The wordplay there, huh?
And so he's Dr. Richard Katz, He's named after his other father because we know in 2023, two men can produce a child, and we've seen evidence of it 3 years ago. So we're here to commemorate that milestone.
Right.
So
and he has a dubious doctorate too, just like the other the other Richard.
Well, it's sort of a family tradition at this point, I think. They all have doctorates that are dubious in nature, as you said. Yeah, it's sort of a family tradition. So, can you explain to us how this happened? It deals with pews. It deals with pews.
Yeah.
Explain to the people who follow Hebrew Israelism and the back and forth why these pews matter to anybody. I think we first need to explain that.
So around 2019, our good friend Abu, shout out to Abu, was interacting with Hebrew Israelites in your forum, in the Christian Hebrew discussion forum regarding the Georgia pews in First African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. So a lot of Hebrew Israelites like to invoke that as evidence of quote-unquote Israelite ancestry or whatever the case is, because they make a claim for some scratchings on some pews that they allege is like Hebrew or whatever the case is. Although there's no there's no verifiable evidence that points to that. But nevertheless,
What exactly are they trying to prove by pointing to the fact that they're saying there's Hebrew on these pews in a very historic black church in Georgia, no doubt? What are they trying to actually prove, though? If someone doesn't understand how the argument is supposed to work, what's the point of saying there's Hebrew on a First African Baptist Church pew in the first place?
Well, for them, I think the church, obviously being one of the first Christian churches to, I would say,
Cats.
the word.
It's one of the oldest churches. Yeah, it's definitely one of the oldest churches.
Right.
Yeah,
and of course there's a desire and a need to connect those people to the slaves and to this idea that they are Hebrews. So as you can imagine, they're invoking the pews as some sort of quote unquote evidence. But nevertheless, in the midst of that, people kept asking Abu to address a guy named Kelly Richardson, who had a video on YouTube talking about the pews. He was about the only Hebrew Israelite getting into the pews.
So he went there.
Were,
He visited numerous times. He visited.
yes,
He claimed to have family members who were there. And again, later on, he would go to help father. He's sort of a surrogate, but because he helped father Dr. Richard Katz, we believe that's why he was named that, because he's Richard's son. So at this time, he is saying these pews definitely have Hebrew on them. And he was like saying he's got definitive proof, and it's been trying to be hidden. Remember that one video where he's like whispering, "See, they don't want you to know this. It's a secret."
Right. Yeah, it was a video that he produced in 2018 on the As Gods YouTube channel. It wasn't on his channel at the time. It was on a different channel. But nevertheless, Abu was recommended the video. He examined the video, and he made 2 videos showing where he believed the methodology was flawed, but he did so in a respectful fashion. Kelly's response was to accuse Abu of slandering his family. Abu made a subsequent video pretty much showing that was incorrect. And from there, things seemed to snowball, leading to the events of November 2020. So prior to the Katz thing, there was a guy named David Bunis, who was invoked by William Brown as having advocated for a phrase that said something to the effect of "take a grasp of Yah Israel with a bass voice." You know, you got to do the sound effect.
And so what they were, because what was going on is, of course, if you're gonna say there's a language somewhere present, then not only should you be able to point to characters, specific characters, but also at some point it should be a word or a phrase that you could recognize and translate. And so this is part of what was being said. And it's so funny to me to think that these guys could go around trumpeting the idea that there's Hebrew on these pews and then act as if they never had to show the pew and then show the translation of the pew. They just were saying, well, it's Hebrew on the pews. It seems like someone besides a Christian apologist should have asked, where's the Hebrew characters and what's the translation? But it shows they're not really interested in the actual meat of the matter or the truth of the matter. They're just interested in sort of the sensationalistic claim. So once their feet were put to the fire, they said, hey, David Bunis agrees with us. Now, David Bunis, that's a real person, right? Right?
Yeah, he's an actual scholar of Solitreo. What turned out to be the case was Bunis did not endorse their phrase. William Brown showed a portion of an email correspondence, and he attempted to twist David Bunis's words to try to make him seem like he was endorsing a phrase. And now that phrase was actually introduced by Benaiah Israel. Bunis never either endorsed the phrase or proposed it.
So how did we find that out, though? I want to real quick. Sorry, I know there's a lot here. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so David Bunis, everyone, is a real, actual, living flesh and blood scholar. He's not a sock puppet character. He's a scholar of Hebrew. These gentlemen were discussing who fathered Richard Katz. They had contacted David Bunis before the birth of Richard Katz and said, hey, we got this, that, and then they showed the email and said, hey, look, he agrees with us. But how did that lie get exposed, or that misinterpretation? How did that get exposed?
Yeah. So Abu reached out to David Bunis, and in various correspondences, David Bunis himself said that William Brown had misrepresented him. And since Abu, I believe, who else it was, William Brown and other people were involved in these correspondences, he sent emails to all of them. So Brown got the emails. So long story short, when Abu puts out his video exposing this fact on December the 3rd of 2020, a few hours after that video is produced, William Brown makes a community post where he declares that they have other scholars, like they don't need Bunis, and that's the creation of the Katz sock puppet.
This whole thing is so unbelievable, even 3 years later. So I hope people are tracking. So, because all of it, it's so fascinating the way it all works. It's all in response to Christian urban apologetics activity. Yeah, I just want people to understand that. I wasn't really involved too much with this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be real honest, and I think I've said this before, so this is a credit to Faithful. When I first started seeing Faithful poke around and say, I don't think this guy exists, here's what I thought. There's no way anyone would be that brazen and that dishonest to create a scholar. At least not someone who claims to be the pastor of a church like these guys. Faithful's dealt with Hebrew Israelites a long time. He's sort of, sour and embittered and embattled, and he's just highly suspicious of everything. And I think he's just grasping at straws. I'm not saying I ever said that publicly, but in my mind, I kind of thought that way. You know what I'm saying, Faithful? Something like that. But you were right. I was wrong. Because they did invent a scholar. And Faithful's suspicions were accurate. And I'm very glad. And I think you were the one who brought it to Abu's attention. I don't think Abu really thought to really check it out too much. Because it's like, okay, well, they have another secret scholar or whatever. But you kind of said, hey, I don't think this guy exists, man. And then what happened? I mean, could you? But just sorry, it's still funny to this day, man. It's still funny.
No, it's
to this
absurd.
Day.
It's when you get down to thinking about it. Yeah. So my suspicions were raised when around December the 7th is when I believe the We Woke Now channel put out a video where they introduced the cat sock puppet. Now, the creation of the cat's sock puppet was on the 3rd of December, because that's when William Brown had alluded to the idea that they had a new scholar. He showed a community post, and he showed what seemed to be a screenshot of an email with this alleged cat's persona, which is really him pretending to be a Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor. So long story short, I tried to find an email address, tried to find something like, you would think that a Hebrew professor is going to have something like published paperwork, peer-reviewed stuff. That's
especially in Tel Aviv. I mean, this would be a prominent thing to be a Tel Aviv Hebrew.
Exactly.
And what's funny is, again, didn't these guys think of any of this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like notice how the kind of train works. First of all, they should have thought from jump. If they just a little bit of, you don't have to be a PhD. You just got to be someone with critical thinking and just a little bit of exposure. Maybe you're a high school dropout and you learn on your own. Just a little bit of exposure about how research works, right? Something like that, or how the languages work. If you're saying there's Hebrew on these pews, we have proof for the Israelites. First of all, it's a horrible argument. It doesn't actually even logically prove the point they're trying to make. But forgetting that for a second, okay. You would think you would realize, oh, shoot, I've got to show the pew with the Hebrew and the translation of it all together, or I'm literally just making a claim. Someone could check me on this. So when they're pushed into it, then they come up with a phrase. And then claim that a scholar backs them up. So they still haven't really shown the exact things they need to show, but they're trying to take a next step. And then they're dishonest about their interaction with the scholar, David Bunis. and it's like they didn't think, oh, maybe someone could check this out. They could follow up with the professor. He responded to us. He might respond to someone else. Someone might check out our claim. We should be careful in how we report the dealings within these emails. We should be, if nothing else, just to preserve some modicum of like self-respect. Like, hey, we don't want to misrepresent this because someone might check up on us. But no, none of that was a thought. Then it's almost like, oh, I know what I'll do. They can't check up on a scholar who doesn't exist. And since we can't actually find a scholar who agrees with us, we'll invent a scholar that they can't find to check up on. And so then what happens?
Yeah, so on the 7th, he puts out the video via his cousin's channel, the We Woke Now channel. And we took the next 13 days to thoroughly research because we wanted to be extra sure that this was true, right? And when we found out that we couldn't find a guy, I concluded that this may be a sock puppet. So in the midst of that, Abu got the idea that maybe we should reach out to him, and in doing so, we'll be able to start to piece things together a little more via his writing style, via the IP of the email, things like that. And sure enough, he was able to communicate. So the thing was, when they put out the video, so people know how Abu was able to reach out to the sock puppet, because there's no email on the internet. In the video, you could see the name of the email at, and then the server was blocked out. So Abu kind of guessed, he piecemealed it together in his mind. So he first put like at gmail.com, at et cetera, et cetera. And then finally at yahoo.com, boom. Yahoo.com ended up being the right one. The so-called professor writes back, and he has the exact same writing style as William Brown. He writes PhD, capitalizing the H, just like William Brown.
What's the problem with that, by the way? What's the problem with that?
Right. Well, it's a doctorate of philosophy, right? So you're not supposed to capitalize the H.
Yeah, because everyone understands. So PhD means Doctor of Philosophy. Now it doesn't mean that the doctorate is in philosophy, but that's what a PhD stands for. It means you understand the field, or you're an expert in the field, whatever. So it's PH, but since the PH is abbreviated for philosophy, it's only capital P, lowercase h. I'm just explaining, a little bit here, whatever. And of course the D, doctorate, right? So that's what it stands for. And then the way it's abbreviated is that way, where it's all three letters together. Capital P, lowercase h, and then D, okay? But every time, you would think somebody with a PhD would know not to capitalize the H in the PhD. It's sort of something it's the least of the things you've got to learn to be a PhD. But this PhD, just like his father, capitalizes the H, not understanding what a PhD it is. Right. Oh, that's a good name. Built for Speed calls him William Boomerang Brown. That's pretty good, because it comes back on him. But go ahead. You're doing a great job of explaining this, by the way. Kudos to you.
By the way, since it is the third anniversary, the birthday, if you will, of Richard Katz, can I get a birthday request?
Hold on. Let me write it down. Okay, I got my pen and my pad.
There are people out there who think they know what Richard Katz sounds like. Since William Brown proposed that the reading on the pew was with a bass voice, I think every so often in the stream we should have a bass voice,
With a bass voice.
There you go. That's right.
D News says part of the money towards getting your PhD goes towards learning how to abbreviate it correctly. You know what? But I'm going to let you continue on. But I do have the first gift tonight since it's his birthday, for Richard Katz. Since Richard Katz is ostensibly Jewish and does a lot of work in the Hebrew text, the first gift that I have for tonight. Now, you got to understand, I'm on a layman's budget, so most of these, they will be used items, but nonetheless, I have went out of my way and I'm willing to donate the Hebrew English JPS, Jewish Publication Society, Tanakh, just for Richard Katz. Because this one he can take on the go. So when he goes to Savannah to discern the rest of the pews, he can just put that in his pocket and he'll have it right there. So he just has his Tanakh right there. It's a travel size. This goes perfect in your luggage. So even though he's only going from Atlanta to Savannah, since hypothetically he's going from Tel Aviv to Savannah, he can put this in his luggage, no problem. But that's the first gift for Dr. Richard Katz. All right, go ahead, Faithful.
Right. Well, so what ended up happening is we put out the video on my channel on the 20th. Now, there's something interesting about that too, about the video. If you go to my channel today, the original video is no longer there because Kelly Richardson had it flagged down. He flagged down the original video. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But
I think that might be the only thing Kelly Richardson would actually qualify to have a PhD in, is how to get videos of other people taken off YouTube. He's got a PhD in how to file privacy complaints. By the way, we got our first super chat. Patriots for Christ says, Merry Christmas. You guys may know a super chat equals a super snack. Adrian!
There
The
you go.
Dobercam is excited and looking and waiting for more. And yes, Ham Sunshine says, if the Jewish book is in English, does it still read left to right? Yeah, the way that those JPSs are, is it's the Hebrew text on one side and the English translation on the other, and it does go right to left, or right to left, not left to right. So yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, so continuing on.
Yeah, so the video is put out on the 20th, and that completely silenced that side. Prior to the video being put out for those 13 days, you had people like Teo Ministries declaring victory, like, oh, why doesn't anybody want to talk about the pews? And he had that little meme of Homer Simpson going into the bushes, trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was totally gloating for almost 2 weeks, as if he hadn't done something untouchable. It's so wild to me, this whole like the arrogance and the cockiness is coming out during this time when he's bragging about no one talking
right.
about the pews. And it's like, if I knew, like, just think about the mind of a liar like this. If you knew you lied, it seems like you would be like a certain level about it, but he can't help it. He just still is putting it forward as if he accomplished something when all he's doing is he's essentially repeating himself. It just seems like he would be like sort of humble about it, but he just can't help it. He just can't help it.
Yeah, so, well, the Teo twins were trying to declare victory. Other Hebrew Israelites, such as Dante and others, were trying to declare victory because that side seems to come together like Voltron when it comes to issues like this.
Basically, all the Darbyites were having a
All the
party.
Darbyites, that's right.
The Darbyites need to have a party, though, for Richard Katz. Today's his birthday. But they're not, so we'll just have a party for them. So they're trumpeting up their victory here, and I think partially the reason they're doing it is because they needed a victory in light of the fact that 2019 false prophecy didn't come to pass. So they're just banking on this one instead. So then what happens?
So on the 20th, the video comes out, and it's like radio silence from that side. If I could use a hip hop analogy, it's like Nas when he drops Ether on Jay-Z. So if everybody remembers the Jay-Z Nas battle back in 2001, Jay-Z puts out the song Takeover, and then everybody thinks Nas's career is over. Then he puts out Ether a few months later, and it's like a resounding victory because he has this great response to Jay-Z. Well, this was kind of like our Ether to them. Like for 13 days, it seemed like it was a resounding victory for their side, and then we put out, the video showing that Brown was in fact Richard Katz the whole time, and it's like horrible. In fact, I can tell you. So
hold on, who got ethered? Yeah. Did Katz get ethered, or did Brown get ethered?
I think all of them got ethered if you think about it, but specifically, I know, William Brown got ethered.
Yeah, poor Katz, only 3 years old, getting ethered already. But okay.
So the video comes out. It's radio silence, and there were attempts by them to put out videos trying to discredit the video that we did, but nothing that ever stuck. And I can say that it was according to guys like Berean and others, Berean took it really hard because for one time he was really going hard for that side. He was really trying to help them and endorse them, and that really severed his relationship with them. It hasn't been the same since then.
He felt betrayed by their dishonesty. He felt betrayed.
Yeah. He certainly felt betrayed. But see, what happened was since then, there have been a lot of developments. A lot of it was covered in our last year's Katzmas, but there have been certain things that have taken place since then, and I think also things that we didn't get a chance to cover last year that I think it would be great for us to go into, such as what has been the spin doctoring since then. Because it was really bad. I mean, it was possibly one of the worst exposures that a Hebrew Israelite has ever experienced. I mean, people think the James White Rakab debate was bad, but that's a debate. This was the first time that someone in their community got exposed on such a grand level for doing something so underhanded, so dumb.
This might have been the worst exposure since the failed 1999-2000 prophecy. And I know that's one West, not the Darbyites, but I'm just saying within the history of Hebrew Israelism, I think maybe that's the closest thing, at least in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah, in terms of individuals, I can't think of a single individual who's been exposed. Like, to have someone lose a debate is one thing, but to be exposed as a complete liar, as a deceiver, as someone who is trying to do something underhanded, I don't think I could think of another Hebrew Israelite that uh, public, or at least online, in this era of discussions with Hebrew Israelites.
Hmm.
And so I could say that there are a lot of people that were formerly affiliated with them, not even necessarily Hebrew Israelites, but just people that were formerly down with them, that have said since then that that was one of the biggest stains on the community. I mean, it was bad. It was a real bad look. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it definitely exposed a lot of the fissures because then you had some of a lot of them turned on each other after this. They turned on each other, and I mean, even though we talk about audio, we talk about the translation, and we joke around and say
with a bass voice.
the fact is that to this day they're holding on to the lie, and Pastor Kelly Richardson says he has audio of Dr. Richard Katz talking.
yeah. Matter of fact, before we get to that though,
You know
you,
what I
you know
think? I
what?
know we're gonna
Yeah, go
play
ahead.
it, but later on, the not the audio. It there's so many things with here. You know what? One thing we should do for his birthday celebration next year, we should have someone that's down with us do like a a hokey impression of a Richard Katz type. And say that we've uncovered the audio for Dr. Richard Katz's birthday. Now he can speak. Finally, on his 4th birthday, he's learned how to speak, and we'll play this audio saying we've unearthed it. It'll be
Oh my
like
gosh.
somebody going, "Oy vey, can't believe it was on the pews."
Or hey you, watch this, like that old famous audio clip. Hey you, my goodness.
Be kind of like in Coming to America, you know, there's you know, there's a fly in my soup. Get it out with your spoon. I don't have a spoon. Like those kind of accents. We need to have some guy doing it. But okay, go ahead. Go ahead. So continue
Yeah.
on with the Richard Katz controversy.
So what's interesting is we didn't get a chance to cover it last year, but a few months after the Cats thing happened, I mean, it was really bad for several months. There were several Berean videos calling them out, telling them that they needed to provide evidence of Richard Katz, or else, they were essentially barred from coming on his channel, that kind of stuff. Like so sometime in April of 2021, Sister E and Benaiah Israel attempted to tried to make an appeal to a Georgia-based professor named Richard Katz, who was a professor of Gothic. Keeping in mind that the guy that they were claiming initially was a Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor, right? And Sister E on her channel put out a video with Benaiah Israel where they invoked this guy from Georgia. Now, what's funny about that is, uh, towards the end of December, I believe it was the 31st of December, Abu put out a video, and I shared it on my channel, where we had already addressed this professor and said, because there was a guy named Plummer. Now, RIP to Plummer. He actually passed away last year. He was a frequent guest on Berean, but
Columbus, Ohio. He represents my hometown.
yeah, RIP to Plummer. He put out a video where he said, hey, I found the guy. And then it was, he Google searched Richard Katz and then looked for a professor, and then found some professor of Gothic in Georgia. And sure enough, like, the guy has no background in Hebrew. He's not a professor of Hebrew. And we pointed that out. So obviously that should have been dismissed. But here these guys were, Sister E and Benaiah Israel, April of 2021, trying to use that professor as like, aha, see, here's Richard
Ah.
Katz. We've known it all along. He was right here, and all of you dummies, you should all apologize. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
If they ever do that again,
Yeah,
we should contact that Richard Katz. If they ever
right.
pull that out again, we got to contact a guy and be like, "Hey, is this you?"
Yeah. Well, Abu and I did a live stream addressing that, and then they immediately shifted away. Now, here's what's crazy. Vocab. Here's what's crazy. In the video, and it's on my YouTube channel. If you want to show people just the video so they can know the title. It's on my YouTube channel. Um, the the video actually has Kelly Richardson appearing towards the end of the video. So Kelly Richardson jumps in the live stream with Sister E and Benaiah Israel and says, yeah, we knew this was Richard Katz all along, the Georgia guy. Okay? It goes to show you how desperate they were to try to save face with the Katz thing, that they were willing to invoke a completely different guy just because he has the same name and then spin doctor the situation. It was amazing, but they since let that go. When we did our live stream, they let that go. It's like they've never brought up that Georgia guy up ever again. And what does that tell us? That they're going to continuously be disingenuous. They're not going to be transparent and just say, you know what? William Brown was wrong. William Brown's not going to come forward and say, hey, you know what? I lied. I'm sorry. Because it seems that doing so hurts their pride. They think that admitting that they were wrong somehow invalidates their identity claim. And look, whatever, we disagree with the identity claim, but being transparent has nothing to do with what you claim regarding your ethnicity. You should just be honest. You should be transparent and just come forward and say, hey, we were wrong. We got overzealous.
Yeah. Do you want to play some of that video, your guys' live stream?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you could, I'll actually give you the timestamp.
All right. Welcome. Look, it appears Richard Katz is in the live chat. He's got a P capital A, capital P, capital H, capital D. So welcome to your own birthday party, Richard Katz. And I must say, I know you're a Hebrew professor and all, but listen, you're still only 3 years old. I really don't think you should be having a phone. I think you're much too young to be on a live stream that's taking place at 9:54 p.m. Mountain Time. Almost 1 a.m. back east. I don't know what time it is in Tel Aviv, but regardless, you should not be up, I must say. But nonetheless, people are happy you're here. So they're giving you your love. Let us know what you want for your birthday. Maybe Doki Doki Bible Club, if he comes through, can gift you a channel membership or something like that. But all right, go ahead.
Yeah, if you could go to about, so it's the video from my channel called Correcting Sister E and Benaiah Israel, the Richard Katz Deception Revisited. If you could go to about the 42-minute and 9-second mark, that's
Okay.
where you see Kelly Richardson come in. Now, Kelly Richardson, for those who don't know, is William Brown's cousin. And he
Yeah.
seemed to have been the guy that jumped in front of the bullet when the exposure of William Brown was
Yeah,
taken.
and this whole situation is trouble because, first of all, you have William Brown as the father, and then Kelly Richardson as the other father. So first of all, it's two fathers producing this child. Second of all, they're cousins. So there's a lot of concern about what's going on in this family, to be honest with you. Two fathers who are both cousins producing Richard's son. But according to Richard Katz, PhD, he says Mom and Dad Katz, PhD, said he could be up so late. Okay, so hold on. This is going to take me a second to set up. So just give me a second here. It's going to take me a second here.
It's about 42 minutes and 9.
What about the 8,000 Hebrew artifacts that were found on a small island of Port?
I got to get the new.
Oh,
the
no,
new
that's
hold on.
our interesting friend.
Yeah, it
Karen.
is.
Hebrew. Shout out to Haplogroup.
Okay, what time did you say again?
42 and 9 seconds.
So what are people going to see in this?
Yeah, they're going to see where Kelly Richardson was attempting to endorse the Tel Aviv-based professor as being the real Richard Katz, which is like utterly absurd if you think about it, because they were claiming that he was a Tel Aviv-based professor, and this guy is in Georgia, so he is going to be in full effect. But let's listen.
Good. So yeah, definitely. And I'd say this was a great interview, great hearing the things that were shared. And I just, even with the thing that you understand the confidentiality with pastors. if Moray
Confidentiality with pastors. Yeah, you got to keep all your fake scholars a secret.
Brown would have released this information with him telling him not to do so, he could have gotten in trouble. You could be sued, and many people don't know that aspect of being a pastor. And I support him 100% from the beginning for not disclosing that information, because I really believe even if he decided to say, hey, let me put his information out there. The question.
Hold on. Okay, Richard Katz is supposed to be a public person. And this is not like a guy who attended Boom Church in Atlanta with some private confession about something. I must confess, Pastor, that I know what the Hebrew on the pew says. Wow, okay, confess. Confess. How long has it been since your last confession, my son? Literally, my son. Right?
I know what the Hebrew says, but I can't actually read it. Remember he told you he couldn't read it?
I know what the Hebrew says, but I can't actually read it, yeah. So it's just wild that he's acting like this is some kind of case of pastor confidentiality and some kind of... This is supposed to be like a pub... You don't have to... No one's telling you to dox Katz. We're just talking about public information that's already existing. This is just so dishonest. I actually have never heard this. I didn't know, or I don't remember ever hearing this. I didn't know they took this track. This is wild. So everyone, in case you don't understand, we woke now. That's Pastor Kelly Richardson speaking, who's William Brown's cousin and sort of Brown's bulldog in this situation. And then Jacob is one of the Teo twins. Sister E's a Darbyite, one of the few who's willing to show her face, apparently. It's sad, you got 3 men on a panel, but anyways, and then Ben Israel, who's like supposed to know Hebrew and stuff. But listen to this.
Would have been, or the response would have been, well, he only did it because we made him do it. So, so it would have never been, it would have been ongoing no matter what. So that was great what you all presented, Benaiah. Actually, everything you presented tonight was on point.
Wait, if you could pause there.
Because,
yeah.
This
So
is crazy.
now in the same video, if you could go back to 1721. So this is going to show where we played. It's a short clip. It's so 1721. We showed
about
where
we found Richard Katz. He's in Georgia.
Okay, here it is. It's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So back then, you notice that it's Dante's community post where he's saying interesting. So people are claiming that they found Katz in Georgia. It was based on Plummer, right? The guy Plummer. Now this is December 31st of 20 months before. So we had already debunked this, but these guys in April of 2021 were trying to peddle this long debunked theory that was initially proposed by Plummer. So if you could play that so the audience can see.
Oh, I guess Richard Katz has got to leave. You gonna leave your own birthday party? Because he says, I have to go back to my studies. I have more pew work to crack. Shalom. All right, well, we understand. Happy birthday to you. But hold on, before you leave, hold on. Can I give you my second gift for you? Hold on. This is my second gift to you right here for your birthday. Let me show you what this is. And you really need this because Abu has pointed out some errors, even in the translation that you provided, Richard Katz. There were some mistakes. And so I'm gifting you a Hebrew syntax book. Granted, it is an older one, but I think it'll still nonetheless be beneficial. And when I say older, I mean all the way back. This is first published in 1804 here. See, by Reverend A.R. Davidson, late professor of Hebrew and Old Testament exegesis, New College, Edinburgh. So this is a Hebrew syntax book. I'm going to gift it to you. This is actually an antique. So this is a big deal because I know you're 3 years old. I'm going to ask you, when I give this to you, this Hebrew syntax book, Richard Katz, please do not color on it with your crayons. Okay? And keep your Lunchables and your Crustables away from these pages. but I'm also going to send that to you. I'm going to look up the address under your Gothic professor bio and send it to you there so you can make sure you can get it. But okay, I'm going to play this clip now.
In on some sort of conspiracy is pretty strong language. And then Dante shared this video. So let's look at a salient clip from that video, which Dante felt was interesting enough to share. This clip will run for slightly over 2.5 minutes. Here we go.
But I just want to know, you got Abu, faithful to God, you got Berean, then you got Berean said he tried to give a man $300, a private investigator or something said in there, $300 to find this Richard Katz guy. And he said that and nobody could find him. This is why I'm making a video. Nobody could find him, right? And Berean even said that the guy came back and told him that the man don't exist. So here's my thing. I'm plumber. During the first video Berean made, after Abu's video talking about it, while he was talking about it, I got on my computer at that very moment and I typed in Richard Katz, linguist. And the very first thing that popped up on the screen was a Richard Katz PhD in language. And then I looked in the comment section and there was 2 other people that said they found it too while Berean's talking. So my question is, how is it? Now, I'm not saying that that's the guy. I'm not saying the guy I found is the guy, but he's right there in Atlanta. He's a Jewish guy. He's involved in the in a Jewish congregation, and it looked like to me like maybe even a Jewish school, right? And he's teaching some kind of language in the school. I don't know if it's Hebrew or English or whatever, and he had a PhD. He's a linguist. So how is it me, little old me, a plumber, can barely even work this technology, I can get online and I can find a Richard Katz, PhD in language, a linguist. But Abu can't find one. Faithful to God can't find one. Berean can't find one, and neither can Berean's private investigator. Berean, I don't think he's really a private investigator. So my question is this: what's really going on? What's really going on?
So this is what the man in the video was referred to. A guy with the same name who got a PhD in linguistics from the University of Georgia in 2016. Well, the University of Georgia's linguistics department actually posts the doctoral dissertations of recent PhDs. And when you scroll down to the year 2016, you can find a link to the relevant gentleman's doctoral dissertation titled The Resultative in Gothic. When you click on that link, you get a PDF of that dissertation. The piece is on the Gothic language, which is a Germanic language. It's not a Semitic language. Moreover, Hebrew is not mentioned even once throughout the nearly 300 pages of this dissertation. If you can find the gentleman's LinkedIn page, you'll see that the gentleman's BA and MA, let's just say his bachelor's degree and his master's degree, were in English. So none of his degrees pertain to Hebrew. On top of that, when he lists the languages that he has at least some proficiency in, he lists Spanish and German, but he interestingly does not list Hebrew. At this point, thinking this gentleman is relevant to the controversy over Brown's Katz character, the Katz character introduced by Brown, it's an indication that the people pushing this as a possibility aren't thinking very deeply on the question. We're not just talking about any man named Richard Katz with a PhD. We're talking about an alleged professor of Hebrew who supposedly teaches at a university in Tel Aviv, pointing to a guy in a completely different continent whose various degrees did not pertain to Hebrew and who might not even have a meaningful proficiency in Hebrew is frankly unhelpful. So no, this is not an adequate reply to the point that there is no trace of the Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor named
Yeah,
Richard
that's
Katz.
good right there. That's good
Nor
right
does
there.
it cast doubts on what Berean shared about a former marshal telling him that the man does not exist.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to bring that out is that so we had addressed this back in December of 2020, December the 31st to be specific. To make matters worse, Kelly Richardson, William Brown, and other people into my community post with the video. So they saw that video. So for them, many months later, to then try to spin doctor that the guy in Georgia, the guy that we had already addressed, was really the Richard Katz that they were claiming was the Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor, even though he's in Georgia and he's a professor of Gothic, was just desperation on their end. And it shows how willfully deceptive they are. I mean, to me, it speaks to the level of deception on that side. And as the night goes on, we'll probably have some other instances as well, such as um, the alleged audio voice recording that's never never come out. So
Yeah, that's wild, man.
you know,
This whole thing is what, and I mean, it's weird. He goes to all this trouble to say I found this, and then he goes, "Now I'm not saying it's him." What's the point then about this? What's the point about this? Patriots for Christ says PhD versus Plummer.
yeah. Oh, and for the
Yeah.
record, Plummer had before his untimely death, R.I.P. to Plummer, he did recant his position. He recognized that the Katz thing was not a good look, because a lot of people were emotionally invested at the time. So that clip wasn't necessarily a shot towards Plummer's viewpoint prior to his death. It was rather his viewpoint in the midst of the controversy as it was going on in December 2020. But interesting how Plummer, and we call him Plummer affectionately, Jermaine how Jermaine, his position seemed to change because he was willing to be transparent and honest with the information as it was being provided, whereas the other side, who was peddling the disinformation, has continued to be disingenuous. It just speaks to the difference between the character of some people who are on that side, where they're willing to go with truth, even if it means going against something they hold to, versus this other side, who's willing to go out of their way to blatantly lie. They'll perpetuate a lie and spin doctor a lie just to save face.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So now, what else do we need to understand about this controversy and its relevance? We're over here talking about celebrating their birthday and stuff, and we're having fun with it, but it's also obviously a very serious thing, because if you stop and think about it, everybody, this is all because they couldn't prove a claim they were backing up. And as each step they tried to prove the next part of the claim, it got worse and worse for them. So there's a lot to learn from this. One is, you should check the claims that a lot of these false religions and these cult leaders make. And we should check the claims and see what's really going on. I think that's one thing that we learn from this, because look what happens when you do this. And honestly, that we can't take their word for it. Something else we learned: we can't take their word for it. And we also learned that there's no bounds in which people will go to protect their position and pride and credibility. Of course, in the process, he lost his credibility, if he had any. But it's just very important. This is such an important lesson for us to remember, because these aren't even one-Westers. These are supposed to be the nice, moderate, more intellectual guys, and look what they're willing to do. My goodness. Okay, so what's next with this situation? Are we going to play some more video, Faithful, or what would you next?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get to that, just to touch on a point. Now, the video that we just finished playing of Benaiah, Kelly, and Sister E took place on Sister E's channel, if I'm not mistaken. Sister E, I believe it was sometime in November of, I want to say 2021. Orthodox Moore, who's been on your channel, shout out to Orthodox Moore, he put out a video exposing a private conversation that took place between Sister E and so Teo, Sister E, and some other people. I don't think Orthodox Moore was a part of that conversation. I think it was between Ibri, Hebrew of Israel, and I'm trying to remember who else it was. But there was a conversation essentially where Sister E says something very interesting. She said she was still mad at William Brown, and she was 95% sure that Brown was lying about Katz. But then she was doing videos, live streams, where she's trying to spin doctor the Katz thing, which was William Brown's creation. So it's like you get like double speak from that side, right? In one sense, they want to exonerate themselves because let's be honest, I think some of them deep down inside feel embarrassed by the William Brown.
Oh
Katz
yeah,
fiasco.
totally.
But then there's another side of them that's trying to still, while they're trying to exonerate themselves, then they're also trying to spin doctor for him, which shows that there's just not a level of integrity. But but to speak to that point, the next clip should be the one on Kelly Richardson. So this was from August of 2022 on the bereavement.
Okay, so that pretty much that.
Oh.
Hold on, let me grab it. Go ahead, I'm listening. Explain what this one's from. What's the name of this video? Just title of this video.
I believe it's called Katz Lighting.
Okay, yeah, Abu titled that one pretty.
Great title, right?
Pretty
Katz
funny,
Lighting.
Yeah, Katz Lighting.
If
Skip the papist stuff there. We'll go to where?
So if you can go to the 3 minute and 13 second mark and play to about 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So 3:13 to 3:45.
All right, here we go.
The brain behind Richard Katz. And Brother Baran, again, you was there, and I talked with you. So I'm saying this, family. It's easy for you to say, hey, why come Pastor Kelly won't throw his own cousin under the bus? Wait a minute. Listen to how you guys sound. You know what I mean? I believe my cousin and confirmed. Regardless, I can't put the information out there, but I believe, and whenever he decides to, if he gets the okay, he has audio. Right? But anyway, I'm saying this, Brother Baran, as a pastor, it's so much stuff that you privy to that you can't share. If you do, you can get in trouble for doing so.
Confidentiality, yes.
Confidentiality, right? The courts can't even take me to court to tell on someone that confided in me.
Wait, what? This man, the courts can't even take me to court. The
courts can't take me to court.
To tell on someone who can. What is he talking about with this confided? What is he talking about? This is all public stuff. Like just because you had a private conversation, like, bro, like, and Dr. Kelly Richardson, no one is asking you to throw anyone under the bus. They're just asking you to be honest. Like what?
Courts can't take me to court. That's a new. That should be a catchphrase.
Courts
can't take me to court.
Courts can't take me to court. But yeah, I do want everyone to notice. He says we have audio. The man said we have audio. So he's implying what? He's got audio of Dr. Richard Katz. All right.
And he's never shown this audio, and supposedly because he doesn't have permission. Or it could.
Oh, I'm going to go back to this spot. Where was that? Where was that again? 324?
Yeah. It was about 320 something, somewhere around there.
I'm going to go back to the one time. Everyone analyze what Richardson is saying here.
It's easy for you to say, hey, why come Pastor Kelly won't throw his own cousin under the bus? Wait a minute. Listen to how you guys sound. You know what I mean? I believe my cousin and confirmed. Regardless, I can't put the information out there, but I believe, and whenever he decides to, if he gets the okay, he has audio.
Bro, see, I want to know if Kelly Richardson is claiming that he's heard this audio.
Yeah.
That is like, so he's saying William Brown, my cousin, has audio. Okay. I want to know if he's claiming he's heard the audio or he's just saying, well, yeah, you know, my cousins told me this too. William Brown's middle name should be Trust Me, Bro.
Trust me, bro.
He's Trust Me Brown. That's like his hashtag, man. He's the biggest Trust Me, Bro of all time. Like, really. The ultimate Trust Me, Bro. Yeah, make it like Trust Me, BROW caps with a W in lowercase or something. My goodness. So, yeah. What would be the big deal about having audio? And look, check it out. If you're saying you have audio of Richard Katz, by the way, if he was a professor, we probably would actually have audio of him, a lecture, an interview, something, right? If he really was, right? It wouldn't be a big deal to have audio of a professor at a Tel Aviv university.
Well, Abu, the thing is that if they play the audio, we might hear William Brown's voice. You know, like I get the feeling that, you know, it's going to be our friend William Brown. Not only do we have what do you say? Not only do we have a phrase, we also have a professor to endorse it, and you need to take all your videos down and apologize to everybody.
Actually, yeah. It's like they don't understand every word they utter in this controversy becomes iconic. You know, because it's like during the Iraqi invasion when the U.S. went into Iraq, and there's that guy they started calling Baghdad Bob, and SNL parodied him because he would come on. He was like, I forget what he was, some kind of P&R guy for Iraq or something. He would come on and say, everything's going good. Don't worry about it. We're winning. We're victorious. Everything's going great. You know, while there's an invasion that's clearly decimating the country that he's serving, right? Well, SNL parodied it where they had this, they called him Baghdad Bob because I forget what his real name was. And they would have this character going on there. Everything's going good. It's okay. And in the background, buildings would be falling. And there'd be planes flying overhead, dropping bombs. And he's like, don't worry, nothing to see here. Everything is going fine. This is like what this is. And it's like, well, who has to okay to get the audio? Because check this out. How did William Brown acquire said audio? Let's just play the game with this lie here. How did he get the audio? Did he record Richard Katz without him asking? Oh, I hope not. That would be weird. But if you didn't, if he had knowledge and you're allowed to have the audio, then why wouldn't you be able to share it? If it was some audio you recorded and he wasn't allowed to have it and you're worried about getting sued, he's always so worried about getting sued, this guy, that's what you're worried about, Browning and Richardson. Yo, why can't you release it? Why would you need to get the okay to release it if it's not some secret audio that you're not supposed to have? None of this makes any sense. Just like... But I really think William Brown did a Richard Katz impersonation. And how do you do an impersonation of someone who doesn't exist? That's tricky. Maybe he just went and, you know, did an impersonation of a 3-year-old. Well, he'd only be one. He'd be less than one at that time. But this is so fascinating that he would say this. Like, and Kelly Richardson's never had to be called account to this. Like, did you hear this audio? How do you know? How was it acquired? Inquiring mind would want to know, but you know they would never answer those questions. But yeah. See, look, some people know what I'm talking about here. Ham Sunshine, Baghdad Bob says there's no tanks in our city. Yeah, exactly.
Baghdad Bill, Bill, Baghdad Bill.
Baghdad Bill, yeah, Baghdad.
Tel Aviv Bill.
Yeah.
Tel Aviv Bill.
Shout out to Radar Apologetics. One of the best channels in the business. Everybody needs to subscribe to Radar Apologetics. Shalom, shalom, shalom. It's good to see you. And shout out to Marcus Zamora, who just became a member. We got a new member. That means that's equivalent of a super chat. Adrian. So hold on. Super chat equals super snack. So let me get the dog real quick here. Adrian. Come on. There you go. All right. Yeah. So, dog. Okay. Okay. So, should I play more of that audio?
No. That's pretty much it for that. So it shows that they're still trying to peddle, even in 2022, August of 2022, they were still trying to peddle the Katz thing. But there's one more clip, and it's from earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, actually. It was from Boom Church Atlanta. It is a pastor who actually was trying to argue that basically Katz, or what was it, Katz or Brown? It's like same person, was vindicated. It's amazing that even now, even this year, they're still trying to spin Dr. Katz thing, and they've actually been able to at least deceive some people who were in their circles. Like some people have been able to deceive. I would say most people have caught on, but they're still deceiving unfortunate souls with this lie.
Wow, man. I mean, it's crazy that this audio we're about to play is from that recent. Shout out to Marcus Zamora. He says, Salam, I'm a C, vocab, and panel. Thank you, Marcos. And Marcos gave a super chat. So, Adrian, every time you give a super chat, the dog gets hooked up. This dog is loving this
getting
new.
more present than Cats, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? That reminds. You're right, actually. Hold on. Since Katz does know Hebrew, but ostensibly is a Jewish scholar, I want to give the gift to Dr. Richard Katz of the Old Testament Hebrew work of a group of evangelical Christian scholars. And I believe it will benefit Katz as we build bridges between the Christian evangelical academics and the Jewish community. It's a 2-volume set of the theological word book of the Old Testament. This is really good stuff. Harris, Archer, Waltke, and this is the 2-volume set. It's really all you need. And I think this will benefit greatly Katz as he continues to do his research. And so I just want to give you that. And I hope that you appreciate it. All these will be going to you via the address provided by your location there at the university that the plumber found. Okay, so what's the next one?
You know, it's funny. Every single time you send something to that address, it ends up in Georgia for some reason.
Yeah.
Goodness, I wonder why.
Yeah, every single time. All right, so here I'm going to go jump and play this next video. Do you got a time code for this one? You got a time code for this one?
You're right, but
The
anyway,
Abu version, or
I'm
is it
saying this, brother Marine.
Oh,
I thought you wanted to play the last video that you gave me a time
yeah, the
code.
last video is
Not
is it
Katz
the
lighting and not correcting, but the third one, or the other one, which is, I think it's more from Sister E on Katz here. I think that's what this one is.
That's the
Cats.
Okay, yeah, I've got it up.
No.
No?
The one that we should play is no. That was just pretty much giving evidence for what we were talking about. Sister, there's the video, by the way, for people who are interested in the background, where it says Yap Gang meeting with Teo twins and Sister E, 11/23/2021.
Well, oh, okay.
That's what I was referring to. But no, not that video, but the one with the pastor. There's one with a pastor who this year.
Do we have that?
This year. Matter of fact, I'll
Hold on. Since I have this up though, while we're looking for that, if you could send me the link or whatever,
Yeah,
we might as well play this. So this is a behind the scenes meeting that got made public, where the people involved with this are giving their true facts about what they really thought about the cat situation. This is wild. Listen to this.
Just jump right in with what transpired on Berean yesterday. So we're going to pick this up about slightly after the 3.5 hour mark of the show, and I'm going to play about 12 minutes. Here we go. Fair use.
He started with the whole Katz thing. Everybody know how bad that Katz thing happened. The way we need to ensure that we shut it down is when people start throwing that up. My go-to has been, that's not a conversation piece for me to handle. We need to direct that to majors. Let majors handle it. So if Katz come up again, that's not our discussion point, I would say, and just send them right to majors.
Agreed.
I agree. I don't even touch that. I have my own view on the pews. I leave it at that. That's for Brown and them to deal with. I don't like how that whole thing went down, so I don't even discuss it.
I don't need them. People don't realize that. And this is just between us. Me and majors have not talked since then. I don't even talk to majors.
None of us talk to majors.
Yeah, none of us do. But because
to be honest with you, I don't even go to his channel no more.
Oh
no,
yes.
I don't even.
Yes. But because
I've totally because of repentance. If the brother came and spoke to us, you know, he don't have to do it with everybody. You know what I mean? But if y'all had a live, not even a live, but a StreamYard discussion, and he repented for it and made it clear and repented even on a live because it was done live, then, you know, we could go back to square one. But until that time, I'm not dealing or touching with that situation.
Yeah, and it's an ugly topic too. And the reason why people like, well, E, why don't you blast him? Right now, our community is still rebuilding from this incident. Me blasting Majors publicly, because again, I'm 95% sure think that Majors is live, but I still don't have that 5%. I need that 5%. Yeah.
We don't want to impart Berean, because Berean is nasty.
He said manipulation. When folk don't respect you.
But you know what is up with this? It shows the dishonesty. Like, you know, they didn't say any of this in public or any version of this. They went to bat and said it was a problem with us and this and that. You know, the people, when I say us, I mean the urban apologists. I wasn't directly involved with any of this. I don't take any credit for it. You know,
real quick, vocab, just to the point. Shout out to Orthodox More. Shout out to most of the guys in Yap, because they spotted this, right? For example, that we weren't the only ones. Abu and I weren't the only ones to spot this. They also spotted it, because I like to give credit where credit's due. Obviously, Orthodox More was one of the first people, aside from us, to spot the disingenuousness, and he was still trying to give them something like a lifeline, so to speak. And in every single time they let him down. I mean, they showed that they were disingenuous, not just with this thing, but also with other.
Yeah, at this point, Faithful, Orthodox More was a lot more embedded in the Hebrew Israelite community, I think. And it seems like this process may have been part of what dislodged him from some of that. I mean, him and I have never talked about it. But it seems like, because, I mean, he's in this private meeting for a reason, you know? And he wasn't going to share this, but they kind of forced his hand to share this. So I don't blame him for sharing it. And I think it's good that he did, by the way. It made such a huge difference in understanding what was really happening.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me see. I got this next one. Now tell us about this one again, because it was a second since you walked it up. If you could walk it up again, please. Walk it up is an old radio term, by the way. It means
so pretty much this is a video now. The
cat.
That's why.
Hold on. Right, I've actually never. Have I never seen this? Hold on. Look at this.
Cats. It seems like anytime I bring up the cats thing, someone accuses me of beating a dead horse. But it's almost always someone else who's resurrecting the topic, and I'm just replying to that. Case in point, just last Friday, February 10th, the Boom Church channel, which is to say the channel run by the man at the center of the Katz fiasco, the Boom Church channel, posted a video titled Professor Katz Told on Bishop, Boom Church 50-year anniversary. And if one looks in the video description, they will find the following.
Hold on. I mean, I know you told me about this. I actually didn't really know about this till just now. So what was going on again, Faithful, with this?
So as you're going to see, there seems to be a pastor, Pastor Victor A. Baxter. Apparently, he was invited to Boom Church, and he's going to talk about, I think he's going to allude to the Katz fiasco, and then somehow also allude to the idea that behind closed doors, he was convinced that Brown was right or something to that effect.
How recent was this again?
This was this year, February 2023.
This is crazy. So this is where, so basically a Christian pastor, a Protestant pastor of some sort, leaves the fold and joins Brown's fold. And in this is the 50th year anniversary of the Boom Church. By the way, that stands for Believers of One Messiah. That's the church that William Brown pastors. I don't know how he does it, because he's got to take care of a 3-year-old at the same time, while having driving the 3-year-old to his class, flying him to his classes in Tel Aviv. I don't know. Very difficult life he's got for himself. But you see this situation, and so this pastor is gonna speak on this here. So, okay, now I think I understand. Anything else before I play this clip again?
If look at the text. It's on the screen. It's interesting, just the language. Now, this is from the description of Brown's video. This is directly from Brown's video. So it says, Pastor Victor A. Baxter, founder and pastor of Open Door Assembly in Eastman, Georgia, shares for the first time what brought him and his congregation to Boom. There have been many who have become members of Boom over the past 2 years because of a certain situation. We must always remember and trust Yah to fight on our behalf. Deuteronomy 28:7.
So he's he's really trying to sell this as he came to Boom's congregation and became a member because of this. That's crazy, man.
Super crazy, bro. Yeah.
That's crazy. What is this? So Abu's right. You know, this is the guy who won't let it go. You know what I'm saying? Like, check this. This is the, meaning Brown's the one who won't let it go. This is crazy. Oh, there you go. Open Door Assembly. Open Door Assembly, Pastor Victor A. Baxter. Okay, well, let's play this here.
Quote, Pastor Victor A. Baxter, founder and pastor of Open Door Assembly in Eastman, Georgia, shares for the first time what brought him and his congregation to Boom. There have been many who have become members of Boom over the past 2 years because of a certain situation. We must always remember and trust Yah to fight on our behalf. Deuteronomy 28:7, end quote. Now, regarding that verse from Deuteronomy, it reads as follows, quote, The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. End quote. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel there's a certain bit of irony when an insinuation that others are fleeing is coming from behind the block wall. But that's just me. Whatever the case, I figured this might be worth documenting, so I'm going to play a clip from this video. And we'll pick it up at the 4-minute, 41-second mark, and this clip will run for a little over 2.5 minutes. Fair use.
Like I said, I was one of those avid YouTube watchers, and I began to watch the community, the Hebrew community that was taking place, and all the people and all the celebrities, the YouTube celebrities, and all the preachers and all the teachers, and Bishop was one of them. Bishop was one of them, along with some other folk. One a minute. And a situation arose with this certain professor named Professor Katz. And they're looking for him. I was.
Wait, did you hear the person in the background? They looking for him. Faithful, did you hear that? Hey, where'd you go, bro? Faithful? You here? Faithful to God.
With a bass voice.
There we go.
Yo, did you hear the person in the background said they looking for him? So he brings up Richard Katz and everyone's like, yeah.
Well, they might find him. He's right there.
But that's funny. I'm saying
William Brown.
That's such a funny comment. And imagine, check this out. I've been to a lot of church anniversaries, and I've been to a lot of church celebrations. I've been to a lot of traditional churches in my time, and I've been to all kinds of diverse churches too. You know, just a lot. You know, I've been able to experience a lot. It's been beautiful. So I, know the general vibe of this kind of thing. I can tell you though how weird it is for one of the visiting pastors who's celebrating the 5th anniversary of a ministry or something to bring up any kind of situation like this. This is so bizarre that he's bringing this up. This also shows though how it eats at them. It's like, you were caught, you don't like it, you're going to continue. Now, I don't think the gentleman, I'm not going to assume Pastor Victor Baxter is dishonest or disingenuous. I think William Brown has, somehow convinced him, I guess. But this is so weird. Has anyone ever been to a more traditional church at one of the church anniversaries? It's kind of a thing, right? Imagine if this was brought up. is wild. Okay, so I'm gonna play this.
Well, look at him right there. They're looking for Katz. He's
It's right there on the left-hand
like, where's
side.
Waldo? It's where's Katz? You know, it's like right there.
This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Oh man. Okay, let's play this though. Here we go.
A situation arose with this certain professor named Professor Katz. And
Hey, real quick. I know it's cheap. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Wait, did you notice when he said that he looks directly at William Brown? Like, even though I know he's looking at him because it's like an inside joke between them about, like, you know, what everyone else is saying. But
Yeah.
doesn't it almost feel like ironic? A certain Richard Katz, and he looks over at William Brown.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is like, I'm like, I haven't I guess I've been slacking. You know, I actually haven't watched this video. And so I'm like with everyone else learning this, and I'm just tripping out. Let me make this a little bigger if I can. Let me see how big I can.
You got to
this.
get Jimmy Berman. It on him.
This is crazy. Here, let me get out of the way here, because I'm in the way of some of Boo's text. There, I'm out of the way now. Okay, let's continue on watching this. This is crazy. Everyone understand what's happening.
with this certain professor named Professor Katz. And
They're looking for him.
I was looking. See, the thing about my dad always taught me, you don't have to say anything. Just look and observe. Right? People will tell you who they are just when you observe them. And I was looking at this situation, look like a soap opera. Y'all know the picture. But they were basically grilling him. They were persecuting, they were calling him a liar, they were saying he didn't have any integrity, they were saying all kinds of things about him. And I just sat back and I began to watch. I watched some of the people who were kind of down with him, kind of withdrew themselves from him a little bit when all the pressure came on. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm watching. And I began to just watch what he was doing. And all of a sudden he was silent through the whole thing. He was silent.
Wait. William Brown was silent through the whole thing? He was gloating for 2 weeks, first of all.
No, they happened after the fiasco happened. He was.
Oh, once he got exposed.
Once the exposure happened. Yeah, once the exposure happened, he did go silent. He went relatively silent. Like he didn't.
Yeah,
he didn't really address it.
Stop the Cap says, I didn't even know churches had anniversaries. So Stop the Cap, it's sort of a traditional church thing. So like, the last church anniversary I went to was on the south side of Phoenix. And south side of Phoenix has more traditional churches. And this traditional church is interesting, though. It was a Emmanuel Baptist, I think. And even though they're more traditional, they also are down with letting people rap and stuff, you know, letting the youth do things and stuff. So the reason I was at this particular church anniversary, some of my friends were performing. I have different artist friends, and they were performing for the church anniversary. But usually, a lot of the traditional churches, you wouldn't have hip-hop artists perform there. But that's the last one I went to. It was actually about 3-4 months ago, maybe. But yeah, that's kind of a thing of certain kind of traditional churches will have like a church anniversary. And they're usually pretty fun. They'll do things like some of the older men, maybe let's say the older men have like a singing group, like an a cappella group or that type of thing, or they'll sing some songs, they'll do some traditional hymns, there'll be a special message, a number of other pastors will come and speak. Anyway, so it's a thing. But yeah, welcome to the channel, Stop the Cap, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. And Pam makes up a great point. Pam says, is he still pastoring this church? This grieves my heart that people are sitting under this false teaching. You're exactly right. This is just so tough. You're exactly right, Pam. So thank you for reminding us of the people. Because, you know, this is sad, but also funny in lots of ways because it's so outlandish. But also understand there's people sitting under this, and, you know, they may not know what's going on. You know, they may not know what's going on. Dinu says, I've been to many church anniversary services, Bet you have. Bet you have. And no church member would ever talk about it on the mic, much less at an anniversary service. They'd get set down quick. Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit more of this. Here we go. This is great.
Yeah, he was silent. He didn't say anything else on social media for a while, if I'm not mistaken. Because I was, and I understood where he was coming from being a pastor for so long. Remember, I told you we started in 2010. I understood that when somebody tells you something in confidence, as a pastor, you just can't go tell people stuff. That's right. There's a level of confidentiality that you have to keep. Right. It's called integrity, really. That's right. The bottom line, that's what it is. It's integrity. That's right. When somebody tells you something, don't go telling things to people. Right. And so I didn't see it as him running away. I understood because I've been a pastor.
This pastor is probably a very nice. But this is a little bit one of those things where someone's trying to do
irony. It's just the irony in it because like the pastor, and we're not laughing at Pastor Victor.
No, but this is like
situation.
You ever have those situations where so someone calls you fat, for example, right? I'll use myself. Someone calls me fat, right? And someone's like, "Oh no, vocab's not fat. You should have seen him before last year. It was he was even worse. He's not fat compared to what he used to look like." You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're trying to defend somebody and you end up like he just said, "I didn't see it as running away." I didn't see it as running away. Well, I appreciate that, brother, but everyone else did.
It looked like running away, but it really wasn't.
But he's trying to help him. He's like the friend who's like he's trying to have your back. It's like someone's like, "Yo, Jimmy's mom had 4 boyfriends last year. Dang, Jimmy." Oh. That's not true. First of all, it was only 3 that he had. I know. I went over there, and one of them was only for one night. It's like they're trying to help you, but they're not helping you out. Like, bro, no, you're not helping this. I didn't see it as running away. This is Monty Python. Brave Sir Robin runs away. He bravely runs away. I did not.
And so I didn't see it as him running away. I understood because I've been a pastor, and I was a pastor. And then all of a sudden, the truth came out. And I saw how the Most High validated it without him saying a word. Without him saying a word, y'all. And I was like, there's something about this man right here. And to be honest with you, verse 10 came in on me a little bit because I was kind of scared. I was like, man, I don't want to mess with this dude right. Because I saw how the Most High moved on his behalf. Yes. Yes. He was standing on principles. He was standing on integrity. And
this is literally backwards of what happened, though. This is sad.
Right.
He's running a total con game on this pastor here. Yeah. For him to think this.
On that whole congregation, unfortunately.
Gosh, man, this hurts. Man, this hurts, man. I know people talk about the stuff in Israel, last days, man. When I see stuff like this, I'm like, nah, this is the last days, bro. Stuff like this.
You know something, Vocab? I have to say, this is the reason why videos like yours and the ones that I put out on my channel are important, because wolves in sheep's clothing that are trying to creep into the pulpit and deceive audiences, trying to deceive people. This guy is actually pastoring a church. He's pastoring a church, and he's deceiving the congregants. He's deceiving the pastor. I imagine probably but Brown is absolutely deceiving him. It's sad.
Could say wolves in sheep's clothing or Brown in Katz clothing.
Yeah.
I was looking for someone that could teach me.
Okay, so I'll stop that.
Teach you what? How to create a fake professor?
How to create a sock puppet. How to maneuver through these internet streets.
There's YouTube videos about how to make a sock puppet if you really want to. My goodness.
there, and I ask that you note that the gentleman echoed the claim that Brown could not discuss the sock puppet due to some obligation of confidentiality. And that aside, he vaguely alluded to Brown somehow being vindicated. Now, I have no idea what he had in mind with regard to that, but I suppose I could guess as to two possibilities. One possibility, I'm guessing it's the most likely possibility, is that he has been persuaded by a line of reasoning which not only Brown but so too the good doctor have vaguely alluded to, which posits that the church website adopting Kelly and Brown's claims somehow vindicates Brown. Another, perhaps less probable possibility may relate to the good doctor claiming that they have an audio recording of Katz. I'm just wondering, might they have some audio recording which they attribute to Katz and share in private? I don't know. But like I said...
Yeah. If let's say it's the audio, if Pastor Victor's allowed to hear it, why can't we hear it? Huh?
That seems less likely, less probable. I have never argued that everyone associated with Will Brown has to be responsible for his missteps or misbehavior. But when folks get roped into actively and publicly trying to defend the Katz sock puppet, it pretty much involves them in the conversation. And I'm wondering if it might be worthwhile to attempt to reach out to that gentleman to respectfully and private and politely ask if he could elaborate on how precisely Brown was somehow vindicated. At the very least, that would seem fair. And honestly, it would be curious if the purported vindication is also a secret. But that gentleman is most welcome to post here. I don't censor anyone here. Or like I said...
Okay. Well, we've got another super chat in the form of a channel membership, so that means something for the dog. Adrian! Come here. Wake up. The dog gets a treat whenever you guys give super chats, and she's loving it. Okay, so, Faithful, this is crazy how recent this clip is, first of all. And it's crazy they literally titled it Professor Katz Told on Bishop. That's crazy. That's the title. William Brown titled it this way. This is crazy. It's like, why are you bringing it up, man? Stop. Stop. For your own sake, please stop. Oh, man. But you know what? When we talk about celebrating, a guy who doesn't exist, his birthday, the reason we're doing it is for stuff like this. This is important to show this. And I got another gift. Hold on. I got another gift. This is an older resource as well, but I got Wilson's Old Testament Word Studies Unabridged Edition. This is something for you cats, since I know you do Hebrew. This is all Old Testament words here with the Hebrew. Lots of great information. And so this is a gift. And believe it or not, whenever I see this right here, I know whose library it came out of. This actually came out of my dad's library. Because whenever I see that, that's my dad. That's how he codes his books. So my point is, I'm willing to part with a book that my dad gave me to give to you. Dr. Richard Katz, P capital HD. Hey, real quick, can you explain, Faithful, the element of how Abu was able to absolutely figure out, because it wasn't just with the email and stuff. It was also with the type of phone that was used. Because, we didn't get into... Can you explain real quick, just there's some parts in the story that get a little complicated, but how Abu absolutely proved Katz is Brown, Brown is Katz.
So it was like he had the exact, the Katz sock puppet, the email account that William Brown was using for Katz, and the email account that he used for his own email, right? So the way that Abu found out was in the correspondence with David Bunis. Bunis had sent emails to everybody, and then William Brown had responded to David Bunis. And the thing is, when he was responding to Bunis, he was in fact actually responding to everybody who was in the email. I forget the way that Abu worded it, but basically there was almost like a inadvertent email chat group. And so whenever Brown and Bunis would have correspondence, all the people who were added would get the emails. So in finding William Brown's email, he was able to find his IP. Then he found the Katz IP. Now that part is obvious. Now the other part was they had the same phone, the same Android operating system. I mean, the same writing style. Down to the run-on sentences. So William Brown, if anybody's ever read any of his community posts, he has a very awkward run-on sentence style of writing, and this Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor has the exact same, down to the wording. In fact, no. Here's what made it even worse. The professor didn't know that and neither does William Brown, for the record. This was another dead giveaway. The professor of Hebrew didn't know about the construct state in Hebrew, so when he put the word, he said that the phrase B'nai Yisrael appeared on the pews, and that the word B'nai meant son rather than sons, because B'nai is in the construct state in Hebrew, it means sons. It's in the plural construction. For a Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor to not know that is remarkable, but William Brown already had videos like that on his channel and posts that alluded to the idea that he himself didn't understand Hebrew, so it makes sense that his sock puppet would also not understand Hebrew.
They made the same grammatical mistake, which leads us to our next gift that I have for them. I have provided by Logos here. It's a little card you can put like in your Bible or in the back of a book, and it's what are called the Hebrew paradigms. And so it's a little handy-dandy chart to be able to keep this kind of stuff at your fingertips about singular, plural, and dual. And you can go through the different numbers and see the strong verbs. And this will really help you with your basic Hebrew studies. So I'm going to put this in the package, the care package that I'm going to send to Dr. Richard Katz, so he can know his basic Hebrew grammar just in case it slips away from him again. And I've got one more thing, because, Faithful, what kind of phone did Katz and Brown share?
Oh, I believe it was a Samsung Galaxy. Was it a Galaxy 20, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Now, look, this is going to be kind of a weird gift, this next one. But the reason I'm doing this is out of my own conscience. I'm worried about giving a smartphone to a 3-year-old. And so since Katz was having to share William Brown's phone for his messages and stuff, I'm actually going to give Dr. Richard Katz his own cell phone. But I'm not going to make it a smartphone because I can't give a 3-year-old a smartphone. I gift to Dr. Richard Katz his very own flip phone. This is yours, Dr. Richard Katz. Your very own flip phone. You no longer have to share William Brown's Nokia, but I'm not giving you a smartphone. So this will be in the care package for you. Don't you think that's a great gift, Faithful? Isn't that a great gift? I think it's a great gift.
You know what would be a even better one is an IP address.
Oh yeah, he needs his own IP address.
Yeah. So this way he doesn't
does.
make the mistake of linking himself to himself.
Yeah, he needs his own IP address. Okay, so
he needs a VPN, yeah.
yeah, we got to help him out. So what else you got, Faithful? I think that about covers it. Oh, but you got something else. Hold on, go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for this past year. I would say that it goes to show, though, that here we are 3 years later, and there's no sign of repentance from this man. In fact, he's still deceiving people with this lie. He's not deceiving the amount of people that he was before, but he's still nevertheless deceiving people, and that's why these Catmas specials.
Merry Catmas. It's a combination of his birthday and the Christmas season. Yet another pagan holiday to celebrate. Merry Catmas.
Well, that's why this is important. We need to, shed light on these kind of deceptive folks who are taking advantage of people like Pastor Baxter and others. They're I would say that they seem like they're well-intentioned folks, they seem like they're searching for truth, but they're looking for it with the wrong person and perhaps in the wrong place in Boom Church, because Boom Church, the pastor doesn't seem to have the transparency required of a pastor. And in fact, if you could, brother, when the Bible talks about bishops, right, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, Second Timothy or First Timothy? I believe it's First Timothy. It's First Timothy, if I'm not mistaken. Well, First Timothy chapter 3, the qualifications for a bishop is, that he have good reputation, that he be a man of integrity, all the things that William Brown has thus far shown himself to not have, in that he continues to perpetuate a lie. If you could read that for us, brother, if you could read First Timothy, that'd be a great birthday present too for our friend William Brown, as a piece of advice of what a bishop is supposed to be and what he's not doing right now. His behavior is showing to be the opposite of what the apostles prescribed for bishops.
All right, hold up. Let me see here. First Timothy, bada boom, bada bing. Very important book of the Bible, by the way. All right, I got it up. We're ready for this. Let me fix this here. Da-da-da-da. Okay, here we go. All right. Wait a minute. Let me do one thing here.
And while I see it on your screen, things like drunkenness, we're not going to attribute that to Brown, but some of the other things that are there are clearly things that he's violating.
Yeah, okay, here we go. The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders, so that he may not fall into disgrace, into a snare of the devil. Notice, faithful, how I read that with a bass voice.
But what's interesting about that is that while there are clearly things in there that I wouldn't put on him, I don't think he's a drunkard or that he's somehow doing bad things to his wife, but he's not above reproach. He is a person who has a bad reputation with outsiders precisely because he refuses to have the humility required to acknowledge where he's made a mistake. He's made a mistake in this whole situation, and the best course of action is transparency, honesty, and that would show him to be a person worthy of the title of bishop, if he in fact holds to the essentials of the faith and he's actually a genuine believer. But given what he's been willing to do to protect a identity claim that he cannot even substantiate for himself, it shows that the way that he's behaving is not the way that a bishop should ever want to behave. And so I think all of us should keep him in prayer. The greatest gift that we can give a person like him, and also Katz, which is really him, is to pray for William Brown's mental state, and hopefully that the Lord would convict his heart and cause him to see the error that he's in.
Agree 100%. And now for the last gift that I've got to give Dr. Richard Katz. This is a beautiful book that I picked up at ETS, actually, and it shows the history of the Hebrew script. And since he's going to be translating pews with the Paleo Hebrew, he will definitely need this. The Book of Hebrew Script, History, Paleography, Script Styles, Calligraphy, and Design. And this is by Dr. Ada Yardini, who's born and resides in Jerusalem, and is a graduate of Bezalel School of Art, and has done some amazing work there with the script and all that. So I make this the very last gift that I'm going to give to him. And here's one thing that I want to show real cool that's cool, Faithful. On the back of this book, Faithful, guess who endorsed it? And no, it's not Dr. Richard Katz. But notice one of the endorsements, Faithful. I know you probably can't see it.
Yeah, it's really hard to see.
Yeah, I know. But that one right there, that endorsement is from Anson F. Rainey from Tel Aviv University. So this book has been endorsed by one of Dr. Katz's ostensible colleagues. And so that means it's got to be good because one of Dr. Katz's own colleagues actually endorsed it. There we go.
And they endorsed it with a bass voice.
Did you say with a bass voice?